All right, let's get started. So the Bachelor, Blake was kind enough to donate some code to us. Let's see how it looks.
Okay.
We got some passing tests. That's a good start. All right, and here's our code. So first thing that we're supposed to do, build a method called getFirstNameOfSeasonWinner that takes in 2 arguments. Let's see if we did that. Yep. And a hash called data, good, and a season. So one thing I want to make clear about this is that like the instructions were to call it data, but it doesn't matter within the method. For example, I could change that to D, that to D. Oops. Let's see, where else is data in here? I could make season S. Just season? Yeah. Make that S. And these tests will still pass. Still green. Don't name your variables single letters, though. But just want to make it clear that we can call those variables whatever we want. So we are taking those in, hash called data and a season. The method should return the first name of that season's winner. You'll need to do some string manipulation to return only the first name of the winning lady. Think about how you'll iterate through the hash to get to the level that contains the contestant's status. All right, let's see how we did it. So a couple things I want to clean up right off the bat is let's do this like regular Ruby style, and let's pay a lot of attention to white space on this. So I'm going to get rid of the parentheses here, and we want to surround these equal signs with a little bit of breathing room also. Then same thing with our do, same thing with this, same thing with this. And I'm going to put a little space around that also. So hopefully that looks easier to read to you. Let's do a little compare and contrast. So that feels a little bunched up to me versus that, a little bit easier to read. So what Blake did is he takes the season data, so he's making like a placeholder variable, or a temporary variable that's keeping track of a particular season here. And then he's eaching over it, and we have this winner up here, and as soon as this matches, we set winner equal to whatever the attributes are. And he's using split 0 to get just the first name. Questions about this solution before we start looking at other ones? Cool. So let's look at some other ways we could have done this. Anytime I see something like this, and then it's just being immediately used down here, I'm always tempted to see what that looks like if I inline it. So if I do data season there instead, we saved ourselves a line of code. And we're still all green, but we have to ask ourselves, is that easier to read than what we had before? I kind of don't think so, but it's always worth taking a look at. And some of this ends up being a little bit language specific. Ruby people would write it this way. In JavaScript, we would absolutely just do that inline. So next thing I want to look at, sorry, season data. There we go. Next thing I want to look at is anytime I see this pattern where we've got something here and we want it to be, and it's like being assigned down here, my first thought every time is there a way to do this with reduce? Because reduce is about like taking a list of things and turning it into a single thing, which is exactly what we're doing here. We're taking that season data, we're eaching through it, and we're hoping to get a single thing out. So even though this isn't like a sum or like a traditional accumulation, that's the first thing that I go to. So let's see what this would look like if I did it with reduce instead. So the season data dot reduce, it needs some kind of initial value, like just like we did up there. So we could say that the initial value is nil, and then we give it a do block, and see what's going to happen inside of this do block. Anybody remember the syntax for reduce? What goes inside the pipes?
The accumulator and then the element.
Beautiful. So, oops, I'm blowing up somewhere. Shut up. All right, so the accumulator in this case, we can call it the same thing we did up there. It's a winner. And then each one of these, so Blake used attributes. Let's keep it that for right now. And then we have this test right here. All right. So if that, then we want whatever, we want the winner to be attributes, right? Or we could just say attributes, else just keep it whatever it is. And then you could probably do that split. Probably do this right here just the same way. Something kind of like that. And this was part of this. All right, I think that this is the same solution. Let's see if the test runner thinks it's the same solution too. So I just comment that out. Am I still green? I'm still green, dope. So we can get rid of that variable right there. And I'll bet we can clean up this code a little bit also. So keeping in mind what it's trying to do, can we think of a better name for attributes? Attributes name.
I called it contestant stats.
Hey, or since it's this complex hash that has a status and a name and whatever else, it is the contestant stats, but really, from like the perspective of the program, it's just the contestant. So if I make that contestant like that, hey, that's starting to look like some okay code. Now the next thing that I would check here is, can I do this with a ternary? Can somebody tell me what a ternary is? We haven't talked about them a ton, I don't think.
It's a way to do a conditional.
Yep. It is another way to do exactly what we did. So I could rewrite this. Come on. I could rewrite this if else as that also. This line and these 5 lines are the same thing. So again, we ask ourselves, which one is easier to follow? I'm kind of inclined to believe the longer one. But we can play around with that and sort of see which one feels better. Questions about this solution?
If you use a dot find instead of reduce, you don't need the if else statement, am I correct?
Let's see. So if I was going to rewrite this same thing with find, so find doesn't have a starting value. It won't have like the winner. We'd have something like this. So we could, it's not going to be an if else. It's going to be something like that. And so this would be like winning contestant equals that. And then we could say winning contestant name split 0. If I comment out the reduce one, I'm still green. So this solution versus this solution. What do we like about them? What do we not like about them?
Find is a lot shorter.
Yeah, the find one's a little bit shorter. What else?
I guess me for what we're actually looking to find, I think the reduce just makes more logical sense because you're taking this huge set of data and reducing it down to the data that you want versus find. I mean, find just kind of implies you're looking for something specific rather than because this is going to be a pretty long set that you're actually coming back with. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense.
Other thoughts?
So I think when I was learning dot reduce, I kind of thought that it was used for like integers and like compiling a lot of data into one number. So like a sum or something like that. But like find, if you're just looking to like pass back one thing that it already exists like in the line, in the data, I guess, find seems more appropriate to me.
Sure. So reduce is the Swiss Army knife of enumerables. We can actually recreate every other enumerable with reduce. A lot of the times it gets used to do things like perform some operation on a number, but ultimately, abstractly, all it really is taking a collection of things and ending up with one thing. That could be a collection of numbers and ending up with one number. That could be a collection of hashes and we end up with a number. Like, what is the average age of all the things? Like, that's a pretty good reduce problem. But this find approach works. The tests are green. So one of the things that the find one feels a little bit more Ruby-ish to me, because we're saying, I want to find the winning contestant and then I want to get their first name. We could also like break that up into some helper methods also pretty easily. I think that the reduced solution is a little bit more mathematically sound. For example, what if there wasn't a winner? Like there is in the data set that they gave us, but what's the first name of the season winner? Well, if there isn't a match, then we go, cool, it's nil. Or probably even better than that, an empty string, so they're the same data type. So I'm always gonna get a string back from this, and even if it doesn't find a match. Versus here, if it never finds a winning contestant, what's gonna happen?
Wouldn't it just be like an endless loop of trying to find it?
Nope.
Does it return the entire hash that it was looping through?
Not quite. Sorry, was that Ashley? Did you have a suggestion?
I said something.
Okay. So Lydia, yes.
Well,
I want to see 4 people at the same time.
I know. You have a 1 in 7 chance.
All right, so what was your idea, Lydia?
Would it return nil?
No, it would not return nil. Any other guesses? It's not able to find any contestant with the status of winner. And so this ends up being nil or something like that. So what happens when I run that function?
It would be something along the lines of cannot do this nil for nil class.
It's something kind of like that. You're in the ballpark. What's the first thing that's going to explode? It's going to try to look up this key name on nil. I go, whoa, nil doesn't have a key on it called name. Furthermore, I certainly can't split it. So this line's going to explode. We've got a way around that. We could say begin rescue like that. That does the same thing as we did above. But now we don't actually have a shorter solution anymore, do we? So some things to keep in mind. I think what I would probably roll with for purposes of this assignment, I think that one probably looks the best. Questions?
Could you just chain the dot split onto the end of the block?
You absolutely
instead
could.
of store?
But remember, you wouldn't be chaining the dot split off the end of it. You need to get the name first. But could I do dot split like that? Well, let's see. Massive fields of green. And now I don't need that variable anymore either. Still green.
And you could also put dot first at the end too, correct?
Yes, you could. Actually, no, I take that back. I don't. Well, let's see. We got the tests. I'm almost positive this isn't going to work. Yeah, I thought so. So it's a string.
No, I meant dot split dot first.
Dot split dot first. Like this. Yeah, that works. Cool.
So not in regards necessarily specifically to this method, but if we wanted to create a method outside of this to help solve some of the other problems, I was playing around with that, and I'm just still trying to get like familiar with all of that and making sure that I'm doing it correctly.
Okay.
Could you show an example of like how you would do something like that?
Sure. So this first step right here, where we're trying to get a particular season, that seems like a good thing that we might want to do more often. So we could say like get season, and it needs a, are these season numbers, names?
I believe they're actually strings.
Cool. Let's say season label.
Okay.
Okay, so I take in a season label and I get back a season. So maybe it takes the data also and just returns data for season. And so we could say get season data season, like that. That doesn't actually like save anything. Really, this would be better if they weren't giving us the data. Then we could just say something like that and not have to also pass this data in, but we didn't design it. That would be like the kind of approach you take on something like that, though.
Gotcha.
You could also, this one might be a little bit more useful, find winner. And so this would be given some season data, give me the winner. So we do something like this. Take all that off. And that's going to actually save us some. So we could say winning contestant equals find winner season data. Are we still green? We are not. Undefined variable or method get find winner. Or no, data season. There we go. All right, we're green again. That's a lot better. All right, I know you guys have relationships coming up. Or no, what do you have this afternoon? Right after this?
Whiteboarding.
Whiteboarding, that's right. I want to make sure that you get to that, but I want to talk about some of these other ones too. So for get contestant name, takes in the data hash and an occupation string and returns the name of the woman that has that occupation. So this is a pretty good helper right here. We have get all contestants and excellent use of both values and flatten. Blake, talk us through your thought process on that.
So I looked up some methods that would kind of help get all of the contestants into just one array. And so I was just looking at the data structure, and then I knew if you took in the data and did dot values, you're basically going to get an array back of all the values from those keys. So then it basically kind of removes the keys out of the situation. Then you have an array of a bunch of different arrays. And then if you do dot flatten, that takes all of those arrays and just puts them into one array. And then now you have all the contestants just in one array.
Bravo. Very well done. So one of the reasons my text editor is barking at me though, and I see you guys do this a lot. So we are assigning data.values.flatten to this variable. And since it's the last line in the method, that gets returned. But it also gets returned if we don't have that at all. So we can just do that. You don't need to save something into a variable. And then if we kind of Ruby style this a little bit, that's looking a little bit better. All right, so we're calling get all contestants. Take some space there too. Passing in that data. You do need the parentheses on this. Why?
Because it's followed by an enumerable?
Yeah. So if I tried to do something like that, that doesn't work. Or if I try to do that, it's going to try to call each on data. That's when you need the parentheses. Okay, so we call it get all contestants, pass the data in, and then we're going through each of the contestants. I'll say it feels a lot more Ruby-ish to me to have an all contestants kind of like this. All contestants dot each. And then let's fix our spacing, get everything so mushed together. Okay, so we have all contestants, and then we go through each of them. And who remembers my rule for naming things in the pipes with enumerables?
If it's plural on the outside, you go singular on the inside?
Yep, plural, singular, plural, singular. So that should be contestant, but all contestants, the singular for that isn't contestant. It would be like one contestant or something like that. So how about we do that? That's looking a little bit better. Contestants, contestant. So then we're doing the same accumulation kind of thing again, where we're trying to find a contestant that has a particular occupation, and if they do, we're grabbing their name and then returning their name. This is actually pretty similar to what we did in the first method. How can I kind of do the same sort of idea?
You mean like instead of what he's doing here?
Yeah.
You would use a dot find.
Okay, so it's going to be pretty similar to this like find winner. So if this is like find contestant by occupation, and it takes in a list of contestants, and contestant dot find. All right, so what goes in here? What contestant am I trying to find?
The contestant whose occupation matches the occupation passed through.
Yeah. So probably also need to pass that one in. Okay, so that'll give me a matching contestant. So I could say something like matching contestant is find contestant by occupation and then pass in contestants and occupation. And now once I have that, what do I need to do with it?
Get the name.
Get their name. That's it. So I can say matching contestant name. And now I don't need this thing over here. And I don't need any of this either. So let's see what that does to our tests. Uh-oh, something it doesn't like. Undefined local variable contestant on line 18. Good, contestants, not fine. All right, we're green again. Dope. So we started with this, and we're ending with that. I'll consider that a cleaner solution to that problem. Something else is starting to happen too. If we look at find winner and find contestant by occupation, interesting. Anybody seeing anything in common there? What if I make this contestants and that contestants? Anybody see it?
Very similar things that we're looking for, just need to change from status to occupation essentially.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like that varies a little bit between those, but everything else is the same. And then this winner, well, interesting. So what if we called that value, and then in this find winner, we pass that in as a variable, and then make this like that. Huh. And then if we also passed in a key, maybe? So like this find winner thing might be status, oops, lowercase s. All right, so now that's getting passed into find winner, and now that can be that. Now wait a minute, if I did that same thing with find contestant by occupation, and down here, I passed in occupation as an argument to that. Anybody see it yet? Or maybe if I call that value. Do you see it yet?
It's the same method. You just should change the method name to something a little bit more ambiguous. I guess that can work for different cases.
Exactly. If I need to find out anything about any contestant, that'll work. So I could make this something like find contestant by attribute. And now I can use that up here. Find contestant by attribute. And then make this one find contestant by attribute. Holy smokes. See if it still passes. Still passes. That's pretty cool. I'll show you one more trick we can do with this. What if I really like how descriptive like find winner is though. So what if we kept find winner? We keep that method, but it's really just kind of a shortcut for us for find contestant by attribute. And then we pass in whatever else is part of this. Contestant, status, winner. And so this ends up taking in the contestants. So then up here, instead of this long call here, this can be find winner. You can pass in season data, which I believe we are now calling contestants. Are we still green? Gosh darn it, we're still green. Point of this, there's lots of different ways to solve these problems. Once you're green, you're halfway there. But we want to think about, like, is there a way we can make this easier to follow? Give me some questions.
Is there a good way to order these methods so that it's like as clear as possible for someone else looking at it?
That's a really good question. Don't overthink it. like try to look for some rigorous method that we could consistently apply. What I usually do is start at the top and go, all right, what is this calling? All right, nothing special there. Find winner. Okay, well, find winner should probably be maybe right after it. Or in this case where we're like actually solving these problems here, let's maybe have all of these first. So we've got these like get average age for season. All right, so I'm gonna put all of my helper methods below that, and I'll have the first one that I use, which was the find winner one. Oops, did I delete it? Yeah, I did. And maybe I put that as the first one after like these. All right, well, what else is being called in here? Is find winner have any ones it's using? Find contestant by attribute. All right, so maybe I put that one right after it. And I go, okay, what about this one? Get all contestants. So maybe that's the next one. So that's like a rough strategy I use pretty often. Cool. Hopefully this gives you some ideas for how you can approach this. If you guys want to talk more about it, we can. Elsewise, you guys should go do some whiteboarding. All right. Cheers.
Cool. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.